I'm seeing a lot of stuff out there recently about the disadvantages of saving in tax preferenced retirement accounts like IRAs, Roth IRAs, 401ks, that kind of stuff, because of all the strings attached to them. And some people even claiming that they're a scam and that you should never touch them. Well, they're not a scam. And what we're going to do in this video is go over the math and the benefits of why you definitely want to use these accounts to your advantage. So first off, the reason that these things even exist is because the government wants us to save for retirement. Like the government, hate the government, say what you will about it, the government is better off when we're better off financially in retirement. And so to incentivize us to save for our own futures, they give us access to all these tax preference, tax advantaged retirement accounts. And the deal is, we get to take advantage of these tax benefits and in general pay less tax on the money inside these accounts that's growing from investment returns, but they come with a few strings and caveats. One of them is that in most cases, if you want to take money out of these accounts before you're 59.5 years old, that distribution might come with an additional 10% penalty. There are a few ways around it, right? And then we discuss those in other videos. But in general, you have a penalty for taking money out before you reach the age at which the government thinks you should retire. On top of that, there are some other restrictions and rules and that kind of stuff. For example, when you put money into the 401k, you're not paying tax on the money that is deferred into that account. Then it grows tax deferred, but the IRS is still waiting to tax you on those funds. They want you to save for your own future in your own retirement, but they don't let you keep the money in there forever. They force you to start taking it out when you're in your mid-70s through what are called required minimum distributions. That's a string and a caveat, but it still allows you to defer a whole bunch of taxation and save a whole lot of money between when you put the dollars into the account and when you take them out decades later. So let's go through an example and run the math on what this actually looks like. Let's say that you have $1,000 per month that you want coming in as income that you want to set aside for your future, okay? And you have a choice between taking that $1,000, putting it in a taxable investment account that doesn't come with any of these strings, that's not a retirement account, or setting that $1,000 a month aside by using your company's 401k plan. Well, let's say, just to start, that the average rate of return on your investments is 8% per year, which is reasonable. Most years it's going to be above or below that. It's going to bounce around. Let's say long-term average is 8%. Let's also say that you're in the 24% federal tax bracket. We're going to ignore state and local taxes. I live in California. California has a substantial state income tax. Let's just ignore that for the time being. So if you have $1,000 a month, or $12,000 per year going into this account, that income, to start, you have to pay tax on it. And so if we have $12,000 a year going in, in monthly allotments throughout the year, that means that after paying 24% taxes, we're only left with about $9,120 going into the accounts to be invested because we have to pay the 24% income tax, okay? So if that $9,120 goes in every single year on a monthly basis and earns 8% per year, then after 10 years, you'll have put in $91,200 after tax. It will have grown to about $140,000 of value. So after 10 years, you have an account that's worth about $140,000. That doesn't mean that you have $140,000 of cash that you can use to go buy stuff or finance your retirement. It means that your account balance is worth $140,000. And the difference between what you put in, that $91,200 and $140,000, that's all gains that you have to pay tax on. Now, the good news is that you're probably not paying tax at 24% like you are your income. Those gains likely qualify for long-term capital gains rates, which in the 24% bracket means you're paying 15% on that growth. Ultimately, the tax owed on that growth, if you were to sell every penny of investments in the account at that time, would be about $7,300, and you'd be left with about $132,000 in change after taxes. On the other hand, let's assume that you have access to a 401k plan at work, and you can elect to defer money out of your paycheck and put it straight into the 401k. If you do that, that means that you're not paying income taxes on that $1,000 per month as you earn it. It's being deferred directly into the 401k plan. So again, this comes with strings. You get this nice tax advantage now. All the growth inside that 401k plan is tax deferred, but we don't really want to pull it out of the account before we're 59 and a half because it's earmarked for retirement. And when we do pull money out, it's going to be taxed as income. So as opposed to the first scenario where we have to pay tax on that $1,000 per month and we're only depositing maybe $760 after paying the 24% tax each month. When you use the 401k, 100% of that $1,000 makes its way into the 401k. So you earn $1,000, $1,000 goes into the 401k plan because you're deferring taxation. If you do that for 12 months, then you have $12,000 being contributed to the plan. If you earn 8% and do that for 10 years, you'll be left with a lot more money. And whereas in the taxable account where you did this for 10 years, you wound up with $140,000 before you sold anything. If you do this in the 401k, you have more money going in. The account balance actually grows after 10 years to $184,000. Now, the key difference here is in the taxable account, you had a balance of $140,000, you had a basis of $91,200, and you only had to pay tax at 15%, mind you, on that difference. Whereas in the 401k, you have a balance of $184,000, but you have to pay tax on every penny that comes out of it. And the way the math works on this is if you pulled the entire $184,000 out of the account and you pay tax at that 24% income rate we're talking about, you're left with about $140,000 after tax. Whereas in the taxable account, you're only left with about $132,000 after tax. Now, this is about the most simplistic scenario I could come up with, right? We assume that on the taxable side of things, you're putting money into the account, you're never trading, you're never earning dividends, you're never having any taxable events inside that account for the entirety of the 10 years until you start selling investments that are currently worth $140,000. That's not realistic. In reality, what happens is you put money into a taxable account. Some of your investments will probably pay you dividends and interest along the way, which creates more of a tax drag. So in our scenario, we said that you pay tax on the $1,000 every single month, $760 per month goes into the account after tax, you wind up with about $140,000. You sell those, you pay tax on the gains, you're left with about $132,000. That's not realistic. Along the way, you're going to be paying a little bit of tax every single year, meaning that if you're earning 8%, your account balance is probably going to be south of about $140,000. After selling everything, you'll be south of $132,000. On the 401k side, it's a little bit more straightforward because you don't pay tax on any of the transactions in that account while the money's in there. You can buy and sell mutual funds, stocks, bonds, whatever you want with impunity. Now, the one issue that we need to be cognizant of here is what are the provisions in your 401k plan? And I chose in our example a 401k plan deliberately instead of an IRA. The reason is an IRA stands for individual retirement account. That means that it's not tied to work at all. You get to control the account. You get to choose what brokerage firm holds the account. You get to choose what investments go into it. You can buy or sell pretty much anything you want that your custodian will allow you to hold in there. A 401k plan is totally different. 401k plans are sponsored by work, meaning that businesses can adopt them and the leadership in the business decides what you can and can't do inside the plan. So for example, some plans will allow you to take money out and do what's called an in-service distribution, take money out while you're still employed there. It's definitely allowable, but the plan doesn't have to let you do that. And that's a decision that management at your company may or may not make. Alongside that, they're probably giving you a menu of investments to choose from. They might be great investments and they might be sufficient for your needs. They might not be, right? So when we think about this comparison between retirement accounts like an IRA or 401k and taxable accounts, the tax benefits of using the tax-deferred accounts are really compelling. Even if you think you're going to be in a higher bracket higher tax bracket later and you pay more than the 24% from our example today, they really are compelling long term. The caveat is that we need to dig into your own 401k to understand what the options and provisions are, because those additional strings and caveats that your employer might impose by using your own 401k plan might make it a little bit less attractive. But even if that's the case, everybody has an opportunity to use an individual retirement account, an IRA, and I have not seen a situation where it makes by far more sense to use a taxable account before a tax-advantaged account, even though there are a few strings involved. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and click this button that's going to pop up here in a second to download the 5-step retirement income plan.